Well, it's official. Former President Donald Trump will be running for president again in 2024. Trump declared his candidacy for the Republican nomination last night at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. And Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett was there for the announcement and joins us now from Palm Beach. Major, good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. So let me paint a picture for you. The Mar-a-Lago ballroom packed with well-dressed Trump supporters. Well-dressed because, as Trump might say, hey, it's high season here in Palm Beach. And there was tremendous expectation in the air. And when Trump came out, crowd chanted USA, 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 everything going according to script. And then as Trump talked and kept talking and kept talking, well, the best way to describe it is this: low energy.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
In announcing his third bid for the presidency, Donald Trump tried in vain to capture the spirit of his 2016 insurgent campaign.
We will be taking on the most corrupt forces and entrenched interests imaginable. This is not a task for a politician or a conventional candidate.
Trump displayed a fraction of his 2016 energy. The speech ran twice as long as scheduled and for long stretches left his crowd restless and silent. Trump tried to boost spirits by claiming Republicans had won control of the House, something they appear poised to do.
In the midterms, my endorsement success rate was 232 wins and only 22 losses.
Trump put the best face on Republican midterm failures and said he bore none of the blame, even though some of his hand-picked candidates lost in key races. Absent were recent Trump personal attacks on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin.
This is getting stale.
Sam Nunberg is a former Trump advisor who now backs DeSantis.
That's the worst way you could ever attack Donald Trump.
Meanwhile, DeSantis, fresh off a runaway re-election victory, was asked Tuesday about Trump's insults.
I would just tell people to go check out the scoreboard from last Tuesday night.
Trump celebrated administration accomplishments on economic growth, tax cuts, border control, and defense spending.
I made big promises to the American people, and unlike other presidents, I kept my promises. I kept them.
The question is, the Republican Party, generally sold on Trump policies, still buying the Trump brand?
This is just too much drama and too much problems.
Is this the most wounded Donald Trump has been?
It certainly is the most wounded Donald Trump has been. Last Tuesday could not have been worse for him.
After the speech, Trump's daughter Ivanka posted on Instagram that while she loves her father, she will not be involved in politics. Ivanka's statement made no mention of her husband, Jared Kushner, or his intentions. During the last two Trump campaigns, Kushner was a prominent political advisor. Anne-Marie?
So this certainly sounds like a different announcement than the one in 2016 to a certain degree. The low energy line, it hit me. And you pointed out some of the things that he did not mention, including no nicknames for some of his potential people who might be running against him. But what else did he not mention? Because I can think of like a list of things that you might want to bring up if you plan on running for president.
Exactly. So before the speech, Trump advisors in the room said, you know, this is not going to be a revisiting of grievances. It's going to be focused on the future, which some Trump critics have said he needs to do. Okay, fine. He did not say very much at all about election denialism, but let's remind ourselves, for the last 2 years, that has been former President Trump's obsession, baselessly saying the 2020 election was stolen from him. Not only saying that, but fueling a riot on the Capitol on January 6th and making that, for most Republicans seeking his endorsement, a core litmus test. Now, Trump may not want to remember that, but history will not yield on that. The other thing he did mention is anything about abortion rights. Now, the former president, while as president, nominated and saw confirmed 3 justices to the Supreme Court, and that led directly to the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Both of those issues, Anne-Marie, abortion rights and anger over their removal at the federal level through the Supreme Court, and election denialism played prominently in the midterm elections. Trump may want to cast them aside, but the midterm election results, and many Republicans will tell you, voters aren't going to forget.
So, as you know, I go to bed tremendously early, so I didn't watch this when it happened. The way it's kind of being characterized, I can't figure out if this is a slightly altered Trump strategy or it's the same old Trump.
So I would say this. There is a characteristic way of describing Trump's speeches which have a familiarity to them. He does the same issues over and over again in slightly varied rhetorical ways. Oftentimes reporters will fall into the, I would say, somewhat lazy habit of describing them as his greatest hits. If we were to use that terminology, Anne-Marie, greatest hits, I would say last night they became his flattest hits. A lot of the same territory, but they just didn't land the way and with the resonance that they used to. And this is going to be a huge challenge for the former president. One of the most powerful and simultaneously dangerous things in politics is to be a fad. Because when you're a fad on the rise, it's powerful. When you're a fad on decline, it's hard to reverse.
It is hard to reverse. I'm not going to lie. I may have been guilty of using that exact phrase, but thank you. I'm putting it to bed forever. You know, let's talk.
I used it too. I used it too.
Let's talk about, you know, you had a gentleman in your package there who was a Trump supporter who's kind of like, it's getting old.
Yeah.
You know, Lindsey Graham, a tremendous Trump supporter, has also suggested that maybe it's time for a change. I want to play some sound from Lindsey Graham.
I just think we need to get 2022 over before we talk about 2024. And I feel that way about the Senate. I feel that way about the presidency. And as to President Trump, I'm very close to him. I think he has a decent chance of coming back, maybe a good chance, depending on how the country unfolds in the next year. But I'd prefer to get Georgia behind us before we make those decisions.
All right, he's even a little bit hedging his bets, a little bit there, but, you know, I understand political survival.
Sure,
but
yes.
what does this say about, you know, how the party feels about the former president?
Even Trump loyalists like Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, who, by the way, didn't start out there. Go back and look at the tape or go Google Lindsey Graham 2015, 2016, but he is where he is now. Even the loyalists, even those very close to Trump, are, as you said, accurately hedging their bets and uncertain of what his political future is, uncertain of where he falls on that fad on the rise, fad on the decline spectrum. One other thing to point out is that for Trump right now, he's now in the race. What's the next thing? What does he do for the next few months? Glenn Youngkin isn't going to get in the race. He's got a legislative session in Virginia that starts in January. Ron DeSantis isn't going to get in the race. He's got a legislative session in Florida that starts in January. Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, he might get in. He said he's not going to decide until early next year. Same thing for former Vice President Mike Pence. What does Trump do all these next couple of months? Have campaign rallies? Well, maybe so, but they cost money to put on, and for what? Are you going to spend money and draw crowds for something that's not going to be voted on to the Iowa caucuses of 2024? I mean, what does he do right now? What's the follow-up to this? And there's no coherent answer from Trump advisors, which again raises the question, why get in the race now? Now, to be fair and accurate, last night, former President Trump did say, hey, we have to help Herschel Walker. We need to get in the Senate. Strong endorsement for the Georgia runoff. Big round of applause. And one other thing, Anne-Marie. If you were to have talked to Trump advisors, as I did a week ago, before the midterm elections, here's what they were expecting. One, big Republican victories, which would be a springboard for the former president. And one of those victories would have been for Arizona Governor Kari Lake, among the most vociferous election deniers in the Republican Party. Well, the midterm election results didn't produce big Republican wins. Kari Lake didn't win the Arizona governor's race, and there would have been an expectation in last night's address that Kari Lake would have already endorsed the former president, and there would have been this supercharged atmosphere. That's one of the reasons there was so little energy last night, because the atmospherics that everyone imagined simply do not exist.
Major, fascinating stuff. Thank you so much, Major.
You got it.